Oh, hello there. Welcome to the wizarding world of LATES, the Liberal Arts Instructional Technology Services. It is through the magic of this studio that we'll be able to take you to the Nightwatch. Today we'll be able to go into the Nightwatch. And so follow me into the next picture. Well, hello again, everyone. Here we are now in the Nightwatch, thanks to the magic provided to us by LATES, Liberal Arts Instructional Services. So today we're going to talk about the Nightwatch, and notice that I've decided not to step into the picture because, as you can see, everyone has a gun. And so I'm going to stay here outside of the picture plane. And that's actually very important because we're going to talk about the picture plane in the Nightwatch, because what Rembrandt does, it's very interesting. He breaks the picture plane. Now, of course, he doesn't really, but through the magic of painting, he is able to persuade us that he is breaking the picture plane. So let's look at what is going on here. We have, as we talked about in class, in the studio back at UT Austin, we were talking about this as a group portrait, and that this was kind of a common thing in the Netherlands, particularly in Amsterdam at this time. But what Rembrandt is doing here is something quite different, and that is through the arrangement of the figures. And so let's take a look at how he is doing this. First of all, we have the central figures here in the foreground, so at the front of the picture plane. So imagine, if you would, that you are just stepping beyond. If I were to actually step into that picture plane, imagine that the first people you would come into contact would be the captain here, Captain Franz Bannenkock, here with this lovely red sash, you can see, and then his lieutenant over here in this very light color that we are able to really spot that they are the main figures. So again, we go back to this issue of composition. Even if you don't know very much about this, you can figure out a lot of it just through composition. Rembrandt makes that very clear to you. We have all of the other figures around, so we have all of these figures around the captain and the lieutenant, but they are probably not as important in the militia. They're not the people who are going to be calling the shots, as it were. So I hadn't thought about that being quite literal, and again, here I am standing in front of it, so it's a little spooky. We have all of we have this space behind here that is being created, again, illusionistic pictorial space that's being created by all of the weapons. We have everything that is sort of functioning as orthogonals, which we talked about way back when we talked about the Battle of San Romano and when we talked about Ghiberti and how artists are creating this. But notice that it's not precise, it's not exact in the way that it would be in the Renaissance. Rembrandt is using light in particular to show us what is important. So yes, he's using foreground, middle ground. So we have foreground here, we have these other guys in the back that are in the middle ground, and then we have the wall in the back, which is the background. So he's giving us this scientific idea of space, but he's also manipulating it through light. And if there's one thing about Baroque art, in particular painting, it's the issue of light. Now, what do I mean here? If you look at, we have the figures in the front that are very well lit. We have the lieutenant over here, and then we have lots of figures sort of in the dark, variously lit. Sometimes their faces are lit so that we can see them. Again, remember, everybody would have paid to be in this portrait. Probably some were happier than others, since some are entirely in the shadows. But then we have this mysterious figure over here of this little girl, and she is entirely lit up. And what Rembrandt has done is it doesn't make any sense in terms of the laws of naturalism, in terms of the laws of space. She shouldn't be lit up. Instead, what we have, it's sort of like magical light. She's lit up magically. She's lit up by the artist. And that is because, for whatever reason, she is a very important figure. And so Rembrandt is using light in an almost iconographic way. The light is telling us the meaning more than it's telling us how the figures are arranged. Now, she is She's somewhat of a mystery. We don't entirely know who she is, but we do know that she has a dead chicken, okay, on her belt, and supposedly the symbol of this particular militia, like a guild, was the rooster. So she may be an allegorical figure, a sort of embodiment of this militia. That's the best guess that we can really think about. I will show you when we get back into the studio, back at UT Austin, I'll show you some details in which you can see the way that Rembrandt has transformed this figure through this absolutely radiant light. And again, it doesn't make any true illusionistic sense. It's light as meaning. Another thing I want to point out to you, again, to go back to this issue of space in the foreground, okay? And we have our captain here, Franz Bannenkock. He's the main, he heads the militia. But then we have his lieutenant here. And I want you to look at both of those figures, because what you can see is that the captain is reaching out his hand, and what he is doing is actually breaking the picture plane. You know, I could turn around and just about touch his hand because I'm in front of the picture plane and he's behind it, but our hands could almost meet in this space outside of the picture plane. And this is a sort of essence of Baroque, this drama. And we see an image here, a painting that is dramatic, but in a quiet way. But Rembrandt makes that more dramatic by having this gesture here. And look at the hand, look at how the hand is lit. And so it's very, very believably coming out into our space. But he doesn't stop there. He also does this with the lieutenant here in the light color. And you can see the lieutenant is holding a spear thing. It's called a halberd. I don't know much about it. It's a weapon. And this halberd here down at the bottom is, in fact, once again, breaking the picture plane. Why is that important? It's important because it brings us into the picture. Not everybody has a spell in which they can get into the picture the way I've been able to do this. But in fact, anyone who stands in front of the Nightwatch, and this would have been all of Amsterdam in the 17th century, anyone could have had a sense that they were actually in the painting, that they were participating in the space. Okay, let's go back now to my portrait, and then we'll go back to class and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the specifics. Welcome back to my portrait. Now, let me tell you all about the Nightwatch, the details that we didn't get to talk about when we were in the painting. There are so many details. I could really go on forever and ever. We could spend the whole class talking about this, talking about the paint, the painting technique. Oh, it's so interesting what Rembrandt does.
Yeah, I think it's about time we replace this old thing with something newer.